This is the Harmonic Motion podcast, a place where you, dear listener, can join with automotive aftermarket professionals as they delve into and discuss the matters which matter.
So, welcome to another episode of the Harmonic Motion podcast. I'm delighted to have Barry Lawson from Lawson Autotech here with us today to talk about him, his business's journey, and a very exciting event that Barry's running called Thistle Auto Revival. I hope that's right, Barry,
Yep.
with the name. So welcome.
Yep, nailed it there. James got it spot on. So, yep, all good.
Spot on. And we've had a kind of relationship, if you like, trading relationship. We obviously had one of your lads down on, we've had you guys for training several times. We've had James down at doing his Master Tech with us. He qualified, I think, in April, didn't he? Pass through that Master Technician program with us. You guys have been here for the Mad Blue, and I think most recently we had the pleasure of a company during the Up Your Business and Up Your Diag Day. So,
Yeah, that's right. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and speaking to James as well, who's been coming down over the last kind of 18 months or so, he thoroughly enjoyed that journey. He came from Nissan dealership, had been there as an apprentice and done his Nissan Master Tech. So doing the Master Tech training with yourselves was certainly an eye opener for James. Was the reports that we got back from that? Totally different.
I was going to say, Barry, it's really interesting. With the recruitment challenge, and it's an interesting side point actually. At the recent trade show that we had here in Birmingham, we were talking about the technician crisis and the shortage of people, and the route you've gone down in terms of recruiting from another garage and potentially a main dealer, where you found you've identified some talent and recruited them in. The journey to the independent world from the dealer network is in itself a bit challenging, because the guys have definitely been coached. One in the brand, so they're really, really focused on brand and product launches and kind of product ranges, and the dealer tools they're using and the information sources sort of push them in a direction of guidance and support, which they feel a little bit exposed when they haven't got that in the aftermarket. Now, either rightly or wrongly, I think there's a perception and a fear that working in an independent's actually going to be a tougher gig. I don't know, talking to him when he was down and his journey particularly, I think he seemed to really relish the fact that, his landscape had opened up somewhat rather than being very narrow on a single brand.
Yeah,
what's your...
I think so. Working with one specific brand, I've done it myself. I worked at Ford many moons ago as well, and you do get to the point where you're driving the vehicle in, and because it's such a repetitive thing, when you've seen one car that week with a specific fault, you've seen 10. You're driving it into the workshop and you already know what the fault is, and I think you do get a bit kind of lazy in your diagnostic process in that regard, where you know what the fault is, so you just go ahead and change it. Whereas if you're seeing a multitude of different faults that, as we see in the independent sector, also the vehicles are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old when they come to us, so that it's faults that the dealerships aren't seeing. Sometimes you've not got any technical service bulletins if you're looking them up on OE portals and stuff, because it's not something the manufacturers have experience, because it's out their network now. So it's just bringing that back in and tightening up your processes for Diag, and James would be the first to admit it himself. His first few months with us, he did feel that he was out his depth from the training that he had at Nissan, to come to us, and some of the stuff we were doing just blew his mind. Some of the test processes we were using, like oscilloscopes and bypassing things, but and confirming faults before we go and put a part on a vehicle. Whereas I think in the dealership as well, you're led by, and this isn't a knock on the techs in the dealerships at all. You're led by what the manufacturer wants you to do sometimes, and if they say put a part on it, then you put a part on it. If it doesn't work, then you followed their process by fitting the part that they wanted you to put on it. Certainly with warranty work as well, you know. That's what I feel anyway.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, the constraint is right. We shouldn't poke at the tech there, Barry. You're absolutely right to point that out. I think a lot of it is geared around the warranty process that the dealer, when you look at in the aftermarket, you look at some of the OE tools that we use in the aftermarket. You bring in a car in and, third check in, it's going, suspect this or replace ECU. And it says, right, replace ECU first. And you're going, how on earth did they get to that jump of knowing that the ECU's potentially at fault with only 3 steps in? And we're going like, we would do that really differently. And it's, when you think about, Nissan, let's say, are probably buying 1 million ECUs a month from Bosch, and the ECUs are probably at 40 quid or 50 quid. They're not 1,800 or 2,000 quid, the price that we would pay. So they're finding, that the labour to diagnose an ECU is more expensive than their buying price of an ECU. And so very often they'll kind of break the process by throwing a part in there because they know the labour time versus the price of the part cost is different, and they say, well, stick that on there. If that fixes it, great, we're happy. And it's not strictly technically the right way to do it. But from a business process, when you're buying millions of ECUs, you're buying them by the kilogram, not by the unit. It does shift the process to be different.
I think as well, having spoken to some guys that have worked in the independent sector and been on training with yourself or other trainers in the independent sector, and they're now working in dealerships and they're having to go through that warranty process and tick the boxes that they've checked this, and speaking to some of these guys, they've diagnosed it their way separately, but then they've got to sit down and just tick the boxes through the test plan on the Diag tool, so that the report's generated, but they already know what's wrong with the vehicle. So it's kind of it's frustrating for them because it's taking them a shorter time to get to what the fault is, but then they've got to sit and do a report at the same time. So it can be frustrating for them, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very interesting business dynamic, and I know our thrust of this discussion is going to be on business, but I know a lot of people don't realise that your average, franchise dealer is actually an independent business running a franchise model, a bit like McDonald's do. The motor manufacturer, the business has to set up an account called a warranty account with the motor manufacturer, and it has to keep it funded. All the work that the independent garage dressed up as a franchise dealer does is on spec. So they have to fund essentially from their own working capital all the work that goes under warranty. Periodically, they'll get a warranty inspection. And if there's anomalies in the process, and that could come from the tech hasn't followed A, B, C, D, E, F, they reject the claim. So the parts and the labor that were spent on that car to fix it essentially get drawn out of the account automatically. There's no ifs, no buts, no maybes. Essentially, the motor manufacturer will pull that 3,000 quid job back. And even worse is they'll do a sample over a period of time. And if they find so they find a trend of non-compliance with the warranty product, they'll go back in time and take a proportion of all the money that business has charged the company for warranty and do a mass clawback. So it's a really, really challenging environment. We're less than sympathetic sometimes with the dealers, if we call them dealers, but they're independent business running a franchise model. It's actually really tough.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever entertain that kind of relationship with a business that had open access to my bank account because you can't even really, you can't even query the claim back because they found X number that didn't precisely comply. And it's a big challenge in that for that business model. And of course, the techs are down the bottom of that process doing what they have to do. And I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of garages, independents, kind of think of that when you go, oh, the tool told me to replace an ECU. They kind of poo-poo it, but when you put the whole thing together, the big picture, it paints a very different perspective of why that is the case, you know.
Yeah, totally. And that kind of perspective as well, the customers that have built up over the differences between the dealerships and the independent guys. Um, and even we had a guy in last week who worked at Mazda, and it was his son's car that was in. And somebody in the workshop at Mazda had told him to come to us, and his words when I was speaking to him were, I suppose you are kind of second best to the dealerships. And I was thinking, well, I'd like to think I'm kind of above them, but again, that's my view on us and the service that we try to give our customers. So, but yeah, and that's somebody that works at a dealership. So,
And so it's that perception, isn't it, of the, you know, you do hear that quite a lot. We used to, you know, we have heard that before, where you're getting a car booked in, and the guy's sort of telling you, well, you know, it has been to the dealer, and you know they haven't fixed it, and they're kind of almost expecting us not to fix it. And I'm kind of going, well, the fact it's been to the dealer hasn't been fixed doesn't leave me surprised at all. And they kind of look at you like you go, well, hang on a minute, what do you mean? You know, and you without poo-pooing, you go, you know, they follow a process which is defined by a machine, whereas we're thinking creatively to understand and get to the root cause. And I kind of go, and the second thing is we really care about the money you spend to do it, whereas they will follow the process and give you a bill even if it's not fixed, because that's their process. So I said, we're a family business and we treat your car like if it was my granny's car. We take care. We want to do a great job. And I think people miss that. They see the glass palette and they see the big brand and they think they're getting top quality, when in fact, you know, it doesn't take much digging to uncover. There is a bit of a big business approach to that. They don't necessarily care quite so well, and they kind of shrug their shoulders and go, "The tool told me to replace X, Y, and Z, and you'll have to pay the bill or not take the car." Where, you know, you and your business is very much in maintaining reliable transport and doing a great job. It's not about tick boxes and following processes that somebody is dictated.
yeah, I think that as well, like the guys, and you could take each department within a dealership, the pressure that these guys are under to meet the targets on a monthly basis is phenomenal, and that's going to have an impact on the quality of work that they put out. I suppose what I'm trying to sit here and not sound like I'm dealership bashing by any means, but having been there and you've got to sell so many hours a day that is virtually impossible, and the ways to do that is take shortcuts really.
Yeah.
And when you've got your own business, you don't want jobs coming back, so you stick by the book and do it. If it takes you a wee bit longer to do it, then it takes you a wee bit longer to do it. As long as it's done right, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Very true. They are under pressure. Yeah, I think when you dig into the model, the business model is geared around, you know, everything else is leaning on the workshop profitability. You know, the profitability of some of the other cost centers like the sales department. They don't necessarily, unless they hit volume targets and do lots of vehicle sales over a period, they don't actually make money on that element of the business. You know, the business model's tied up in the workshop is sustaining a lot of the other aspects of the non-profitable side of the business. And you're absolutely right. There's huge pressure on those guys to ensure that they are meeting some really ambitious targets. And yeah, questionable tactics, I suppose. And it doesn't take much imagination to understand how that happens. But it's funny that, you know, people that buy new cars buy into that. It must have Toyota Air and the Toyota Tire. I've got to take it to Toyota for Toyota water fluid or what have you. There is definitely some brand loyalty there that goes above and beyond realism. And I think, I advise anybody that I talk to about wherever they are, wherever I meet them in my sphere of work or life, find a good independent garage and build a relationship with them through service and MOT. And then when you have a problem, you've got a trading relationship and they'll do their best for you.
Yeah.
Shopping price to price, going around finding the cheapest you'll never build a relationship with somebody that you can work with. So yeah, outside of the dealer side, I think building a relationship, like you would with any other tradesperson, really. If you're a decent enough client, you want to build a relationship with a garage and service provider and have them, have that whole vested interest in you, your objectives, do your values match, and you're going to get a much better quality of product.
Yeah, it's what I like to feel that we try and do is be as transparent as possible with the customers, and sometimes the information that you're having to give them isn't what they want to hear, but it is what it is at the end of the day, and we've got to be honest with ourselves. And having been somebody in the past that would try and dicky up a car just to get it back on the road for the customer for the following day, it only brings heartache back to me when it breaks down 2 or 3 days later again, and the customer's the first one to come back and go, you fixed this 2 or 3 days ago. And it's like, no, I remember the conversation we had was you were desperate to get the car back or couldn't afford to repair it properly, so we've tried to put something together here. So it's been transparent. This is what's wrong with it. This is what it needs. You even take them into the workshop and show them and have that conversation. Sometimes I always feel a visual look for the customer is always a good thing as well when you're trying to explain stuff. And if it doesn't align with what you need to do as a business, whether it meets their requirements or not, it's a discussion to have, but you've just got to let it walk away at the end of the day. If they don't want to do it right, then it's not worth doing at all, is it?
No, very true. Yeah, it is very true. And I think that often comes down to the fact that people often amazes me, and we've had several conversations with people. We deal direct in the hard, tough, detailed diagnostic world, and I have had the conversation and said, share with me your expertise that makes you be able to challenge what I'm telling you. Give me an idea of what makes you know more than me to be able to have that conversation that you don't want it done that way. And you've got to open it up and go, it's my best advice. It's what I would do for my car or for my family's car. It's going to give you the most reliable solution that is going to be long standing. And it's not the cheapest way that you want it done, but it is the correct way. And I think it is tough that way. And we found filtering the clients up front, if you could, at the point of booking, your brand values have to be coming across, and understanding some of those early conversations about, the value and the way you do stuff can help prevent those conversations. And it comes back to that old client rating thing that we've done about the red, amber, green client, red, amber, green cars. There are some risky transactions that you can spot a mile off. A new client with cars that have been to somewhere else and not been fixed kind of is a red. And more so now, really, that you've got, when you've built a successful business, you don't need to take risky work on. When you're new and green and you've got to make the payments at the end of the month, you can compromise the work you do to get the volume there. But that often leads to the post-repair, or I say relationship salvage conversations. They weren't the right client, and you kind of, they're not happy with the right solution, and you're backpedaling to try and, make them not leave a bad review unjustifiedly. But it's definitely there's a mismatch in values.
Yeah, and it just absolutely, it reminds me of a conversation I just had on Friday with a customer who had his transit van, and he was a groundworks landscaper guy, a transit van, and it was in for a water pump, and then he was questioning although when you book in with us, you're told on the phone that there's going to be a charge, an initial charge for checking the vehicle. You're told how much that is, and then the email gets sent over with confirmation of booking and price for the initial checks. But it was still querying that, and it was the wording he was using was, I've been using you for a couple of years now, and I think as a repeat customer, I shouldn't need to pay that. And so I was trying to explain it that it's not just a. He says I put my head underneath the car or the van, and I could see the water pump was leaking, and you've charged. And I says it's not just the checking of the water pump. Has anything else happened? Have you overheated the engine? So we've got to come back to you with this water pump is going to fix it. Because if you go and spend whatever it is for a water pump on the van, and then we find out it's overheated and your head gasket's away or whatever, then you're not going to be best pleased with us there. And he says, well, I've got to admit, I've been using you for a couple of years now, and I've not had to come back again because something's not been fixed right the first time, and there's not many places where I can phone up and I've got a problem with my car or my van, and you get it in that week and you get it back in a fairly quick turnaround time. For me, that's invaluable. And then it did go on to say that when he's pricing jobs, it does say to the customer, it's impossible to see what's underground. There's always going to be problems underground. I says, well, you've kind of answered your own question there. Prices can change.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, no, that's a great analogy that you've got somebody there. And in that case where it's a work tool as well, you think valuing the first right time first fix and you being empathetic to them needing that as a tool. Yeah, but people I think often, and we mustn't take umbrage also, but people are generally, absolutely within their rights to challenge what we're telling them, as long as it's based in and avoids a discovery. Sometimes people get they think the way to getting a good price is by being kind of over aggressive and questioning the stuff you're doing rather than,
It
but as
is,
you
it
said,
is
if
that,
you're, you,
it is that thing as well when you're explaining it on the phone and they're questioning you, and I'll say, come in and we can go over and I'll show you in the car. And then they'll say something along the lines of, oh, I wouldn't have a clue what I'm looking at. And it's like, well, how can you question what I'm telling you if you don't know what you're looking at? How? I'm not trying to pull the wool over your eyes here, so you've got to trust. You've got to trust.
yeah, yeah, and that's where that relationship that you've got with your longer term client, holds true. They do trust you because they've had that positive experience. But I think when things get a bit tight financially, and with the economy, and people are used to haggling and being a bit aggressive with the likes of Sky and BT and the water company and whatever, I think we get lumped into that old, if I push quite hard here, I'll get a discount. You know, I don't know what it is, but there seems to be definitely a genre of people that would question it without good foundation, and don't really accept what you're saying. They kind of keep pursuing this negative negative line of questioning when it does come down to trust. And I think that you can use words and phrases to do that, but I think new clients are hard earn their trust. I often think of when you find somebody that comes to use your services. Generally, they've either moved into the area, so they're looking for a new garage because the old garage they dealt with now is not able to service them because of distance, or they've left the garage. And um, one of my favourite comments was, in terms of that initial discovery conversation with a new client, what's happened to the relationship with your existing garage is a brilliant one to get a snapshot of where they are. So you'll hear them either cuss the other garage is useless, blah, 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 or they don't have another garage. Yeah, we generally just shop around and you happen to be cheapest this time round. That avoided discovery with your red, amber, green clients, some of the feedback that you can get kind of indicates where they might be in their, how they value the relationship with the garage or not. It's an interesting tell.
Have you ever, having that discussion with a customer, have you ever phoned the other garage to ask them
Yeah,
for a review on this on this
yeah,
customer?
yeah, 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 yeah. Particularly where we've got there's a car with an ongoing case history where they've had several goes at fixing it. If it's ever made it in here, if we've decided to take it on, but yeah, you might find there's always three sides to every story, isn't there? There's the two sides, and then somewhere in the middle lies the truth. So it's always really quite tricky. But yeah, I think that there could be merit in some cases for a client review site, whether Mrs. Smith with a Ford Escort is actually a viable client. Whether she's a bit like Uber do. I love the Uber app where they rate you as a client, and when you're getting lifts or not, if you find you keep getting lifts rejected, yeah, oh yeah, you remembered that night out last December when you decorated the inside of the Uber with your contents of your
Yeah,
stomach. Yeah, that's why you
you
can
could
give it a
get
bad review. And
two types of review a night as an Uber customer. You could get a good one at the beginning of the night and a bad one at the end of the night, depending on how good the nights went.
yeah, yeah, so you could extrapolate, yeah, how great your evening was on that. That is interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So, Barry, I was interested to know then because I know you've implemented a lot of systemization in the business there as you've grown and moved on. And I think scaling, as you've done, requires a level of systemization because you just can't sort of keep up. I was interested to know, what tools have played a part, maybe in your customer journey, in the conversation and relationships. You were talking there about authorization, pre-auth, and getting the sign-off charges to enable you to proceed. How have you found kind of what technology elements are you using that have helped you on that process of managing clients and conversations?
Yeah, well, I think as you start to grow, sometimes you kind of get a bit lost in that growth process, and you don't always know what's achievable or what to do for the best, and so you sometimes kind of want to kind of hold it back a wee bit, if you know what I mean. It's that old thing where you want to get to there, but you're here, and it's this path of change in the middle. So you start changing things a wee bit, and then it becomes quite hard. And you get to there, and then you start to step back a wee bit, and then it's taking that change and just trusting that the systems and the processes that you're putting in place that you've learned. It's not as if you wake up and you make them up and this is what I'm going to do. You speak to guys like yourself or Andy Sava or Steve Scott or Alec Lindley or the guys that have done it, and you learn from them, and it's you having the trust within yourself and getting your team to understand that you're going to have to go through a bit of hardship here while we try and get these changes to work. So we'll be pushing to this point here, and not everybody likes change. So sometimes you'll get to there and you'll start, oh, I'll just go back to where I was. But it's trusting the process and the system to get to there. So the systems that we've implemented, so you bringing Garage Hive in has been probably one of the best things we done, garage management software, um, and that was a hard shift to go through that process, but we done it, and on the back of that, we've now got online authorization. We're finding that with the newer generation of customers coming through, people want less face-to-face talking. They just want to book online, to authorise online, just the way the world. Whereas I'm happy to sit down and talk to people and have a discussion. As are Emma and Nadine and Laura that are front of house, and we've got Michael, the workshop controller, who are all there talking to customers, but we're finding more and more people just want to click a few buttons and give you the authorization that way. So having that, and then built in there is AI to get the wording right for your reports that you're giving to the customers. Does it make sense? Has what the technicians wrote make sense? Not only to the person pricing the job, does it make sense to the customer? And does the customer know why that part's needed on their vehicle? So there's a bit of kind of description in there. This is what's failed. This is what will happen if you don't get it done, and this is why it's happened. So it's kind of breaking that down. So we sat and we've pre-written loads and loads of health check reports, so that the techs just need to pick the right one and click it, and then front of house can then use AI in there to change it slightly as well. So it's just that consistency of the reports coming through, that it's not one text saying one thing for take a lower suspension arm. One tech calls it a lower suspension arm, and then another tech calls it a wishbone, and then the girls in front of house or whoever's pricing the job goes, what's the difference between a lower arm and a wishbone? And you're like, well, nothing. So just it's simple things like that that I've felt that have made that transition a bit easier to bring that forward. What else have we? So the 4-day working week is another one that we brought in for a bit of staff morale. 3-day weekend, that the way we've split up the shift is 11-hour days, and half the team are off on a Friday, half the team are off on a Monday, and then everybody's in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then having that 3 days at the weekend with their families, or time to go away and do what they need to do and relax, I feel has been a real great thing. It was something that was brought to me maybe a couple of years ago, and I was like, absolutely no way, I don't feel that will work at all. But I really struggle with downtime. For me, it's just there's too much racing in my head, and if I've got 2 or 3 days off, it's bad. And I know there's stuff that needs to be done, so let's just get it done. And I feel more at ease that way than I do sitting at the weekends or weekdays off or whatever. So, but the team love it, so let's run with it. Let's go with it.
That's a really interesting point there, Barry. I think you're absolutely right with the with the millennial age of, and I found myself transitioning this way as well. I'm an old fart born in the 1960s, so I should traditionally be a kind of person that would want to have a chat and a face-to-face and a phone call. I transitioned to the online method. I love to do everything click 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 click. If I book a hotel, I'm going somewhere, I want to sit down. I've got 5, 10, 15 minutes to do it. I want to just click 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 click, get it done, book it, have the confirmation come in, and I'm off to the next thing. So it's amazingly good to hear that you've adapted your business model to that way of people shopping, in a way that they kind of know your communication with probably the vehicle health checks, photographs, and you hit something really really well on the head there about phraseology. We're buggers as a garage business. We're completely wrong, but because we're all about, we never buy our own service. So we can't see it from the customer's perspective because we never buy stuff for our car, and we kind of would scoff at that. What, put in one of them? I'm like, oh, I'll do it slightly differently. But we never buy our own services, so therefore actually we can fall into a bit of a blind spot when we're looking to, and I'll say sell, but when we're looking to have that as a proposition to the end user, we kind of skip over the technical terms. We make rash assumptions that everyone knows what we know. We can be scanned on the detail and kind of go, it just sort of needs it. If we, like yourself on your car, if my car needs anything, it just gets the best of whatever, and I do it, and I'm happy, and it's all sorted because I know that's going to be reliable. So it's a really interesting one that the management system kind of giving you that framework and structure to be able to hit the phraseology correctly. So you are selling what you're doing in customer parlance. And again, linking to AI, we'll come back to you in a minute about AI. It's one of my pet things about how that can help you turn those words into customer friendly words that they understand. But yeah, having the option just to click and accept and move on. It makes the workflows, I guess, as well. When you're on that 4-day week, with the whole shift in for those 3 days, the hours that you sell and have got available are of course the same, but you have to shift your management of the day slightly differently now because you've got an earlier and later start and finish. Your productivity is probably, without the break of the day in between, you've got more hours with less breaks. It's a bit weird to look at it that way, but your 11-hour shifts now are contiguous 11 hours, not 7.5 hours, and then a break and another 7.5. So there are positives, there's some positives and negatives to that because now you don't have the day in between to get stuff done. You've kind of got to get it all done together. So it's really interesting. But so the work that you said, the boys and girls that you've got working with you love the work week, that way of working. In terms of, if we go back to recruitment and retention of staff, do you think that a factor that really keep the guys and girls, make them, if you're talking about their career at Lawson Autotech, they put a love heart against that? That's something that they really, really value and see as being critical. That's a kind of work-life balance thing that's probably more so than more money. It's spending more time at home. Are you finding that?
We've thinking about it now. We have got a couple of one of the techs, Cami and Nadine, in front of house are both still on 5 days because their situation with their family, Nadine's got a young kid that she needs to get off to school and stuff like that, and then Cami's got to drop a family member off at her work before he comes in. So it's working round about people's lifestyles as well that helps you retain and get staff, because both Cameron and Nadine have been with us under a year and they've slotted in really well. But I think it's the biggest thing I've learned over the years. It's listening to people is a big factor. Sit there and just take on board what people are saying. Now, I'm not saying I'm the best at coming back with an answer straight away, because I've got to think about it sometimes for a few days before I come back with an answer. But I will come back with an answer at some point. You could probably ask my wife that question a bit better as well, James. But I mean, like having Laura there as well as the manager in the garage Laura's been an absolute godsend for us over the last 5 years. She's been with us now, and she's really helped in with us growing. She's worked in the motor trade for a long time as well, and having worked with bigger companies, body shops, main dealers that have got a large number of staff that need managing. She did work with a utilities company as well that had 96 guys out on the road doing whatever they needed to do, roadworks and stuff like that, and managing 96 people, I can only imagine, would be an absolute nightmare. So she's got absolute core skills that we need to help us in our journey as well. And again, taking on and listening to things that should suggest, and having the discussion what would work. I always feel that I might sit there and say, I'll tend to probably pick the downfalls out in things first of all, and I feel it's for you then to come back to me and say, if we tweaked this or done that and made it work, then let's give it a go and see what happens. As long I think if you go into something new, you've got to be aware of the benefits and the kind of downfalls of something as well before you start it. If you go in there blindly, then you're up for a failure straight away, you know.
And I think it sounds like again, in your team that you've got managing the business, whether you think you're a senior management team or a leadership team, I think you find complementary decision-making processes. So people's decision-making processes, I'm a great student of thinking about thinking, and the way that you think about things and the way you come up with decisions can be interesting when you start to think about biases. So your previous history of the way you've made decisions is led by experience further down, and when your situation was different. And one of the skills that I picked up during some of my management training was something called a balanced scorecard approach to decision making, where you basically put a framework together of the plus and minuses of the various aspects of it, and you come up with a score overall, where on the piece of paper it takes the you out of the decision making and it gets you out of your head, and it kind of objectivizes it more so. And it's a great tool to kick it round amongst the leadership team then to go, I kind of run the balanced scorecard approach on that decision we've got to make. And I've got these couple of things here that look a little bit off. Let's kick that round. And I found that, quite useful to be able to make those decisions or take on that information and have a process. Again, process wins over, but takes the human nature and our own biases out of, I really, really want to do it, or I really, really don't want to do it, without having a tangible of why that is. Either of those two things could be right or could be wrong. But also, I think the balance you've got there, probably with the team that you've got going on, that you can probably kick that around a little bit and let those unknowns, the known unknowns, mature a bit. Sometimes you haven't got enough information to make a great decision, and time is actually quite useful to be able to fill in the gaps, to be able to say, yeah, for sure that's a great, or actually that's not great. And I'm not sure that so many decisions that are made under pressure that don't have to be made but are made too quickly, can be the right thing, but equally they could be the wrong thing. But I think balanced decision making.
You can make make the analogy there of when you're working on a vehicle and you just take that step back for 10 minutes and just have another wee, and it could be that you're just fitting, I don't know, say a water pump, and something's just no, you can't get a bolt in because your fingers are not reaching it, and just sometimes taking that step back and having a step away from it for 10 minutes kind of resets the mind a bit, and you come up with the answers.
Yeah. I quite like that in our diagnostic process. We call it sort of debiasing. So not believing that you either don't do or don't know the answer. We have an awesome saying: "In God we trust. Everybody else must bring data." You've got to have the data to base your decision on, and kind of feelings and thoughts, and where it's fluffy, and that's also critical. But the data, if you're doing data-driven decisions, you can rarely be wrong because the data supports or refutes the thing that you were deciding upon. Yeah. So the whole thing about deciding is it is a challenge. Yeah. Barry, I was going to ask you then. You're a big advocate of networking and the power of networking, and as you said, some of the things, and again, I would second that. In the sphere of training, we're in a unique position where we hear lots of people's challenges and we can offer some solutions, but in that coming together of discussing the way that things happen and don't happen, the whole reason we set this podcast up in a way, having
Yeah.
the conversations and the perspective give you an option through thinking about stuff from a different perspective. Networking gives you a different view. Networking can also kind of challenge your perception of where you are. Very easy to get in a bubble running a business and think it's either really hopeless or you're doing a great job and you're not. I think the networking as a tool for a business is invaluable. And I wanted to talk about your initiative with the event that you've got running because again, I'm a great advocate of networking. So I wondered if you might be able to share, what you've got going on with the Auto Revival. And I read up on the website, you've kind of described it as a celebration of independent garage community. What inspired you then to create the event? And what do you think the attendees are going to get from it to sort of drive their business on a little bit?
So I've held a couple of smaller gatherings over the years, just at the workshop. First one was kind of 20 people, second time was about 50 people. We just kind of mingled about the workshop. And then obviously through networking and meeting these people gives you a great connection of guys that I now know the length and breadth of the country and even abroad as well. So that's been great for us. Um, and I get a lot of phone calls off people that have seen the changes that we've made to Lawson Autotech, grown from, 7-8 years ago, there was only two of us in the business, and one 1,200 foot unit, and we're now 6,000 square foot and nine staff members. So how do you do that? Some of it is just kind of getting busier and busier, and you just add in staff members. But then when you get to a certain position, you've really got to think about what you're doing next. So I get a lot of phone calls off of guys up and down the country. Just this morning, I was text messaging somebody that's trying to implement the 4-day working week in his garage, and he feels at this point of the year where it's the summer holidays, there's too many people off, and it's just him and his wife that are in the garage. He's going, what the hell's happened here? So having a plan to attack to deal with that. But the event came about this time because I was getting the phone calls. How do you do this? How do you push things forward? I can't get any staff. I can't do this. I can't do that. So it's like bringing these guys all into the room. Hired a venue, Inglewood House in Alloa. Get all these guys in the room, but also get the people and the companies in the room that can help them make these changes to their business. Get the guys in there that have went from just working themselves, or one or two of them, to having big teams and multi-site garages, having them in the room and learn from them, speak to these guys. I think there's so many guys that I speak to on the phone anyway. I don't know how you feel, James, that you talk to them, but they're dismissive straight away of, it's that whole thing, the change, dismissive of the change. That wouldn't work for me. Well, it's what you're doing now is not working either, so you need to change something to help it work. And I'm not saying that we're absolutely perfect in what we do, but listen to the people that have done it, take that on board and try it and run with it. And sometimes you've got to make the wee changes and the wee tweaks on the small things to then go and achieve bigger things. But I feel, I'm just looking at my pad here. I've got Garage Hive, Comma Oils, Easy Tire, Crunchy Carrots. It's a marketing company that we use. We've got Dingbro, we've got LKQ, we've got All Data, all coming to the event. Steve Scott's coming, Alex Lindley, Ian Brooks from Paget, Louise Davis from One Tech. So we've got a room full of people there with a vast amount of knowledge, and tap into these people. When you told me a small comment comment when I was down, James. What was it? Learn from your mistakes, but a wiser man learns
Oh yeah,
from other people's.
other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is
So
yeah, and that sums it up well, actually, Barry. Yeah, and I would say knowing those people, I know sometimes when you have an event that come on and you've got companies that are there supporting the event. If you've never been to one of these, you kind of look at that and go, "Oh God, it's going to be sales and sales, and they're going to be it's going to be like a timeshare." And what I would advocate, knowing the people that you've got there, is that those people are open-minded and very much of an abundant mindset of, you can do this as well. If these are the type of problems that you've got, these are the type of problems that we had, and
yeah,
here's a way of thinking about overcoming. So, I would say they're not going to be, evangelical, and they're not going to be selling stuff. This is kind of a pull. Come towards the light. If you've got if you've got some difficulties, then here are ways of doing it and ways of thinking about it. So it sounds a bit like a dream team there.
it certainly it opened my eyes, James. We were just working away, just myself and my dad, in the garage, and we joined the DPF Doctor Network, which was a big decision for us at that point in time as well, because we never had any money in the business to buy the membership to join the network. So we made the jump, and we made the decision to do it, thankfully. And then that opened up a network of other garages to us. I'm not too sure how many garages Darren has in the network now. I think it's around about 120, 130 garages. But that was an absolute godsend for me, because it then put me in a room with people having the same problems, not just with DPFs, but with customers or staff, or the wrong types of vehicles that they're getting into the workshop. And having, once I realised that, oh, it's the same for everybody, I didn't feel so bad now, because that was a massive weight on my shoulder. I felt terrible all
Yeah.
the time, because you're not sleeping and you're trying to get to the bottom of this, that, and the next thing. And then once you know that there's other people going through that, it kind of takes a bit of pressure off. And then the next step is like, it's working on trying to resolve these issues that you're having. So, and then that leads you on to meeting other people, because off the back of the DPF Doctor events, then you get to Auto Mechanica, or so many events throughout the country, down to your own ones as well, James. And it's brilliant. Some people might say, "Ah, it sounds an awful boring life if you're just going away and kind of working all the time and speaking to guys that do the same thing," but you need it. You do need it, James.
Yeah, you do need it, Barry. And you do need it, because I think it reminds me of that very old, saying about a problem shared is a problem halved. And I think you do. You're in your own bubble. You're batting up against, what seems like a brick wall. You face, you know, challenges, the challenges you get in life, and you can think it's all about you and your friendship, your traditional friendship network. People. If I count my friendship group, people just don't understand the business I'm in, so I can't kind of open up and say I've got this kind of problem, because they're butchers and bakers and candlestick makers. They're not in the business I'm in, or they're something completely unrelated. So yeah, the networking bit is mates that you've got that are in the same trade as you. So there is a definitive wavelength connection. That the problem you've got, problem somebody else has got, is a problem. And you go away from these events going, I've just solved this 6-month problem that's been kicking my ass, in a conversation or at the back of a webinar, or somebody said something that sparked a thought that you go, I got this. I can solve that. And I don't know about you, Barry, but when I come away from events like the one you're going to host, I have invigorated, enlightened kind of. It's given me a bit of a boost and a charge, and the ammeter's up there at probably 400, and the voltmeter's up there at 14.7. I'm recharged by these events. So that would be the other thing, as well as definitive problems and solutions. You kind of get enthused, an injection of enthusiasm.
But definitely, sitting with some of the people that I've met over the years, that have went on to do great things, that inspires me to try. And this is one of the things that is in my head to put this event on, because I've seen and met and been lucky enough to work with so many great people over the last 7-8 years. I felt it was my turn to put something back into the industry. And the biggest thing that we see up here in Scotland is everything happens down south, and it's like the motor trade starts at the Midlands. There's very little on kind of north of the Darn has his network up in Newcastle, but for a lot of guys it's hard to travel down south not every weekend, but to get to these events that are at weekends or through the week. But having something up in Scotland and in the central belt here, so many garages, I invite you all to come and see what a great thing it is to network and meet some of these people, and as you say, enthuse yourself and push your business forward, because sometimes when you look and speak to some of the guys that are, I don't want to sound, it sounds bad, but some of the guys that are struggling, they're so deflated with the industry and kind of disenfranchised with it, that you talk to them about making changes in their business to then grow their business, to make their life a bit better, and it's almost like I've absolutely no real want to grow my business because I'm struggling with it the way it is now. So if it got bigger, I'd struggle even more, but I can guarantee you won't. It'll become easier. Having a great team round about you, it all depends on your own kind of journey and what you want to do, it right enough. But yeah, come along and meet everybody and have the discussion and enthuse yourself. And you joined the industry at some point in your life, so what are you going to make it, you know?
Yeah, exactly that. And you painted a really good picture there, that some people may be kind of looking at that going, well, I hate the garage. It gives me a lot of grief and aggravation. Why would I give my free time up to come and do a networking event? And I would say, yes, you can grow your business to be more successful, which gives you other elements of freedom. But if you're zoned in on a problematic business that's kicking your ass and it's making your life a misery, you know what? You'll solve that misery and you'll make those small changes that will make what you've got now easier. Never mind about stage 2 or stage 3. If you're in a bit of a zone of, problems and you just want to solve them, then I would say get yourself along to that event. You will find people that have got answers that will work for you. If you go along with an open mind and bring your problems and your challenges with you and talk and share those things, you will find solutions that maybe you were skeptical about, maybe you hadn't even thought about, but you'll find people that are on the journey. And I love life is a journey, that we're all starting at one location where we get born completely butt naked, and we'll end off in a casket looking at the lawnmower from the wrong side. And in between those 2 points, there is a journey, and we're all at different stages of that journey in our business life, in our personal life. And I think the brilliant thing about the networking events is you'll hook up with somebody that has been where you've been. It's not people talking from their hat. They've been there, they've done it, they had the problems you have, and they solved them. And in a non-threatening way, what you find there's an abundance mentality. there's nobody preaching. There's somebody said, look, I was in exactly that same boat. I had this, and this going wrong. That was all over here. And what I did was this, and I tweaked this. And you kind of looking at people going, and you've shared that kind of for free. Yeah, because I want to help you. I've got through it, and I want to help somebody else. The whole reason you set this on, Barry, you've been on that journey, and the networking's helped you grow and prosper. And I would say to people that are skeptical, yeah, get your ass in gear, make a bit of effort, go with your problems, go with your challenges, and you'll prosper immensely from having an open ear. And of course, you've got an event that isn't all about work. You have got a bit. There's a social aspect to it as well, isn't there, Barry? So you can have a few beers and let your hair down.
That's the best thing about networking, is you get to have a beer and relax, and that's when the conversations start to flow. I mean, how many times have you been on stage, James, when you say, has anybody got any questions? And there's silence. And then once you're 2 or 3 beers into it, the questions never stop coming. So
Yeah, it's true. You're in a much nicer environment to be able to have those one-to-ones with the people that you've seen. Yeah, and completely unthreatening. Yeah,
and it's
so
just aye, it's such a you can meet so many great people, as you say, having the conversations that especially after a beer, where maybe 2 of will start the conversation, and the next minute there's half a dozen of yous sitting talking about it, and that's when you can come up with ideas on how to resolve issues that you're having, or look at things in a different way. I mean, everybody's going to have a different perspective on the way things should be done, and what works for you is not going to work for me, and it's listening to all these different ideas, or what you think's working for yourself. Then you might come up with a better way of doing it, and then it's like, oh, why have I not thought of that before? It's that's what it's all about. There was a great, just when you were talking there, James, there was a great saying I heard just last week, and it was, it's my first time being a human being. And you're like, it is actually, yeah, everybody's first time at doing this. So there we go. But just to mention on that about having the issues and no sleeping and things like that, we've got Ben coming to the event as well, James. So Ben's the automotive charity. You'll know of them. They can offer support to anybody working within the automotive network, automotive industry, and any family members, anybody that's ever worked in the automotive industry. So if anybody's struggling with anything, these guys will be here on the day that can surely explain it far better than I just have.
No, and they're an awesome crowd, aren't they, Barry? I mean, again, just for some that completely available at any time to have a conversation if you're feeling a bit blue or you've got some concerns and worries. They offer that service, to garages and motor trade employees, and it can sometimes be just the fact that a lot of problems can just. I run alongside mentors, because I find the mentorship process a bit like, and we're leading towards why you'd want to talk to somebody if you're having a problem. A lot of the problems that I work through with my mentors are done in the preparation for the conversation. I kind of got in a zone of now what I wanted to phrase it. That's got my thinking clear about the problem I've got. The conversation that we have with the mentor, they'll throw a different perspective on it. And all of a sudden, in the getting towards the conversation, picking the phone up, having the conversation, and then sitting on it afterwards, the process of that, I would phrase that talking therapy is just, it gets you out of your own head. It puts you into a different spot, and what seemed insurmountable a minute ago is now, you kind of go, what was I worried about that for? Because now you sort of just sharing it's really helped you unblock whatever was blocked, and has helped you see that although it seemed like a really big deal and there's still stuff that needs to be sorted out, it's been dropped into perspective. So yeah, the fact you've got Ben there, which can help, especially if people are, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be defined by anyone saying, but they are there to offer their support and encouragement, and just to be an ear, non-judgmental. It's fantastic, yeah. And that's brilliant to hear that they're there and you're supporting Ben in the event.
Yeah, a great charity. So, on you go, James. Sorry.
No, I said it is a brilliant to see that motor charity there. Tell us then, we haven't really mentioned about when it is and where it is. So if you've got some details about the event itself, I think this pod will go live on Friday. So we're the 14th now. So the 19th, it should be out there. So on the Friday or after, when people are listening, when and where is it, Barry? And how do they get tickets to come along?
So the event is at Inglewood House in Alloa. It's on the 23rd of August, so just a few weeks away now. And it's a Saturday, so a full day Saturday into the evening. We've got your meals and everything all there at night, and socialising at night, a bit of disco ball and stuff like that in the evening. So yeah, Saturday 23rd of August, that's when it is. And where can they get the tickets? They can get them on, the links are on our Facebook page for Lawson Autotech, and you can also go on to Eventbrite, the app, and you can buy them through there as well. Thistle Auto Revival.
We'll put links in the pod so as well, so we'll directly link to the tickets that the boys and girls can buy. Yeah, and yeah, no, it sounds brilliant. So hats off to you because you didn't need to do it. So hats off, Barry, for getting your ass in gear and organising it. It's no having organised events myself. People don't realise what goes into it. So
I've
thank
got,
you for your
I've got to,
benevolence.
before I sit here and sound like I've taken all the credit, Laura has done a lot of work on this. So I'll take your hats off to me, but I'll also take my hat off to Laura and thank her very much for
Yeah.
the efforts that she's done to put this together.
Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work. So yeah, hats off to you and Laura. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so I know Laura has been a big part of it. So yeah, and the support that you guys have given each other to do it, I would just say awesome. And you make a really good point. We hear it often with the training. We don't really train anywhere but here, because it's tricky, because kind of I'm old and lazy now that I quite like living quite close to home. But you do hear it. People say, nothing ever happens in Scotland. I think probably there are a lot of people out there that run events looking at how Scotland reacts to an event in Scotland. So there's probably a little bit of national pride on the line here with the garages in and around Scotland to get behind it and support it. I think if there's a movement of interest, if you're sparking that level of engagement, there will be more that follow that people will see.
Yeah, let's bring the trainers up. I'm sure you're dying to come up, James.
I love it.
The that's such a comment I hear a lot as well, is there no training in Scotland and stuff like that. Well, you're only a train journey or a plane down to Bristol and then a short car journey to Tech Topics. But um, if it's not happening in Scotland, then you need to go and find it. But on the back of this, we hope to kind of showcase that there is so many guys want to push their careers forward and do the training up here. Then let's make it happen. If nobody does anything, nobody's going to come. So, did you not have a guy from, is it Germany or Spain at Tech Topics for the Up Your Diag weekend? So there's that guy willing to travel for Germany to England to go and see him. So there you go.
Yeah. I think it's a mindset thing. I think, the guys in Scotland are really, lucky to have you guys at Lawson Autotech putting it on. I would encourage them to get behind it. If they want to see more events in Scotland, really the support they show you guys with a homegrown event can only do well to, make Scotland that hub of openness and people are, people will provide and put on events. So yeah, I
Yeah,
wish you, I hope the guys get behind you. I hope it's an awesome event, which I'm sure it will be.
I hope so. I hope so. And a big thank you to the companies that have got involved in it as well. Coma Oil, Easy Tire, Crunchy Carrots, Dingbro, LKQ, All Data, Garage Hive. So some big names out there that are willing to come up to Scotland. So yeah, just the support's there. If you want it, everybody just come and see it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I wish you well with that.
I hope so.
No, brilliant. No, and it's been awesome. Listen, Barry, thanks very much for giving up your time. Really appreciate that. I wish you all the best with that event. Thanks for coming on and sharing that with our listeners. And I'd also hope if people have got space in their calendar, it's a great place to go in the summer, heading up to Scotland to see your event. I know there are people coming from all over the country as well as the Scottish folk. So uh, I wish you all the best of that. And any final thoughts, Barry?
Any final thoughts? I went blank, James. Yeah, just it's a great opportunity to like sit down here and speak to yourself, and I'd like to thank you for giving us that opportunity to put our event out there, and hope to see some of the your listeners or followers up at Lawson Autotech or Thistle Auto Revival in August. So thanks for having me on. It's been great.
You're more than welcome. No, I appreciate it, Barry, and thanks for what you're doing for the trade in hosting that event. And on that note, we'll sign off and we'll catch you soon. Thanks, Barry.
Thanks, James.